Hey, what's up pups, it's JR, and we've got one more separate video before I get back to BTD. Before we begin, I made a little way to portray myself whenever my VR is on the fritz. A little bit of work in MMD, and I've made a few renders to make my videos without VR a bit more lively than Jericho.png. Anyway, not too long ago, I made a video talking about 12 things in Warframe that tilt me. The ratings were overall mixed, but all in all it seemed pretty popular. While I said the only thing I enjoy more than building weapons in Warframe is complaining about Warframe, that's not to say that there's nothing I like about it. It's just easier to complain about something than to praise it. However, a little while after on livestream, someone in the chat asked me if I would ever make a video about things in Warframe that I enjoy or make me feel nice. At the time, I could only think of one or two things that I actually really enjoy, but as time went on, these things became more evident. So with that, let's move on to the 6 things in Warframe that I love. Building. We'll start off with the most obvious thing, seeing as how I have an entire series dedicated to it. I absolutely love building different weapons and seeing what I can do with their stats. Or lack thereof. Doing this pretty much is the only thing that kept me coming back to Warframe, because there's a damn near infinite number of builds and weird things you can do with weapons. Hell, I've been building weapons as my main deal for the back 3 years of my 5 total in Warframe, and I've only begun to scratch the surface of possible builds for weapons. I'm still in the stage of building every weapon I get for the highest burst damage or DPS respectively I can get. I've barely started building weapons for stupid but fun things, the only current example being my Supra Vandal having its Bravo configuration set to a maximum fire rate build. And because this next point is pretty similar, let's head on to it. Variety. There is a reason I think Warframe having a meta is so fucking stupid. The variety of weapons, warframes, and mod configurations for such in Warframe is, in my opinion, the biggest selling point for the game. Including special variants, there are currently 57 warframes, more than 400 weapons, and almost 870 different mods, excluding Rivens and Warframe. The sheer number of different things to choose from is very baffling, and when it comes to new players, the number of mods and weapons alone can seem downright overwhelming. But this is a good thing. If someone has the right amount of dedication to learn at least the basics of how different mods affect different stats, namely Warframe's mentality of playing to your strengths instead of improving your weaknesses, they will get an almost infinite amount of entertainment and playability. If you've watched at least one of my Warframe streams, you've most likely noticed that I complain about Warframe a lot, and I talk about how it's painful to play. It is true to an extent that I'm pretty sick of Warframe in general, yet to this day I continue to play it almost daily and continue to cover it on my channel. This is because I don't believe I've exhausted everything I can or want to do in Warframe. There's still warframes, weapons, builds, and mods I haven't used or tried yet. It would be like me dropping a Fallout game forever before I found every location, did every quest, and got every unique and the like. If I find a game I really like, I want to squeeze every last bit of content and playtime I can out of it. This is why I recently started my playthrough of Fallout 4's Far Harbor DLC. I hadn't played it through yet, and it's also the reason I pretty much never play Skyrim anymore. I've done literally everything in it, and I've never been much of an advocate for quest mods. I prefer to play things that are canonical lore. So DE has kind of taken advantage of me in this aspect for making a game that has an unfathomable amount of content and is still being updated with more to this day. Whenever I reach the point where I either feel I've gotten everything out of Warframe, or DE goes off the deep end and pulls some seriously stupid bullshit, I will still have a bit of regret in the fact that I never actually got to try raids back when they were around. My brother and I were pretty much the only people we knew who played Warframe a whole lot, so we didn't even have the bare minimum amount of people to start a raid. And we weren't about to rely on randoms to back up and help us. Or at least stay out of harm's way while the adults handled it, depending on the experience. Zephyr, Cora, and Valkyr. Along with building weapons, these 3 lovely ladies are also part of the reason I still play Warframe. I love everything about each of these Warframes, but I keep coming back to Warframe, and these Warframes specifically, because I find them the most fun Warframes in the game to play. Zephyr has her increased aerial mobility and Tailwind, as well as the ability to summon tornadoes, which is pretty fucking cool. Valkyr is the embodiment of all my favorite combat elements in video games. An unstoppable berserker specializing in ripping apart her enemies with terrifying speed, as well as being able to transfer her murderous expertise to my normal melees instead of just using her claws. And Cora's main weapon of choice is a whip, has an awesome feline companion completely loyal to her, and has a brutal concept of binding people in what is essentially living barbed wire. On top of the fact that she has above average aspects about her. Basically, the point I'm trying to make here is that all of these Warframes are an amazing amount of fun to play. And even if I end up hating Warframe at some point, I'd still miss coming back and playing with my girls. Fashion frame. This kind of goes in line with my points on variety, but fashion frame specifically holds a special place in my heart. I like being able to change the things I use up a little bit to add that nice bit of personality to them. If a game has a customization aspect to the characters, you'll most likely find me impulse buying a skin, outfit, or cosmetic just because I thought it looked nice, even if the game is subpar. Hell, I have all of about 2 hours in the game Paladins, not having touched it in years, and I still spent $5 on a skin for the character Ying because I liked the way she looked in it. This is also part of the reason I play female characters. I find it easier to make a female character look a way I'm happy with. I'll admit there may be a sexual aspect to it, purely because I'm a heterosexual man after all, but overall it's more of a satisfaction thing. I find an amazing amount of satisfaction in spending hours in the character creator to make my character look exactly the way I want. Then finding an outfit and weapon to match exactly with my interests or plans for that character. Because of the variety of different ways you can customize your Warframe with different cosmetics, idle animation sets, and color palettes, not only do I have basically a gigantic cosmetic playground for me to play around in, I have many different ways to make my Warframes my very own. Not just with colors I like and different Sciendanas and armor sets, but even with my weapon choices. A while back, I made a Built to Destroy video all about my different Zaws, and in that video, I brought up that my Dagger Zaw, Talon, was, in my mind, my Zephyr's own personal weapon that only she can use. I'm sure a few of you may bring up the fact that my Korra, that you may have seen by now, is just a generic color setup of black, white, and red, kind of ruining my whole point on being unique and, personal. This is because most of my color setups usually come from characters or fictional beings I like. Like for example, my Korra's colors are based off of the character Vampire from the mobile game Azur Lane, and for a while, I set up my Zephyr like Arya from Killer Instinct. And when I first got Zephyr's Strafe skin and the Ikaria Sciendana, I set her up like Cinder from the Legend of Spyro games. Of course though, I could go on and on about the origins and ideas behind my different fashion frames, so I'm just gonna cut this here before I make this video longer than it should be. Autopilot. This may be a bit of a strange one. So obviously, at my level experience in Warframe, a lot of the content in the game isn't exactly difficult. However, while I do wish there were more consistently difficult missions in Warframe, the fact that a lot of the common stuff is relatively easy means I can do other things I enjoy while basically going into autopilot mode on Warframe, pretty much just letting my muscle memory do the work. The main thing I find myself doing while also farming Kuva, Void Traces and Relics and Prime Parts is watching Oxhorn's Fallout lore videos, because I love Fallout and the lore in each of the games is super interesting. But I can't be bothered to read any and every terminal or note I find because I have more legendary armor pieces to find. I've already finished his entire playlist on Fallout 3 lore, and as I'm writing this script, I'm watching his New Vegas lore video about Hidden Valley in the Brotherhood of Steel. I do want more challenge in Warframe, but at the same time, I enjoy how casually I can play it. So if I really wanted to, I could multitask and get things I wanted to done. While it mainly involves getting caught up on Oxhorn videos, there have been few cases where I got important business done while playing Warframe. In fact, I wrote almost every script for Built to Destroy Season 5 while playing Warframe. Season 5 wasn't exactly my highest quality season, but the fact that I was able to do that in the first place is pretty cool. Jack Tag and Vulcan Blitz. This is a rather recent discovery of mine, and I'm upset with myself that I didn't try it earlier. I've had Jack Tag sitting in my inventory for the longest time, but all it did was collect dust as my only hammer. The only reason I got it in the first place was because I wanted one of every melee weapon type and I needed a hammer. However, there was another thing that was also collecting dust in my mod collection. This was the Jack Tag augment mod, Vulcan Blitz, which makes it so enemies killed with Jack Tag explode for 300 blast damage, plus 60% of the enemy killed's max health. To put it simply, this is my favorite mod in the entire game. This mod and thusly Jack Tag have a pretty much endless giggle factor, and the fact that it scales with enemy health makes it rather viable even in endgame content, particularly excelling at taking out Corpus and Infested. Korra's Whip Claw used to be affected by this mod, but that has since changed. However, it doesn't change the fact that Korra's second ability, Ensnare, groups people up for one well-placed charge attack that will cause the entire group to erupt. The more enemies ensnared, the bigger the explosion. And finally, the last thing I love about Warframe. Ad revenue. That'll do it for this video. If you enjoyed this video, consider dropping a like, and make sure to hit that subscribe button to become a pup if you haven't already. I've got a new shirt in the shop, everyone. Yeet Yote Yunt. Express your advocation for the endless variants of everyone's favorite exclamation. If you've seen more than one of my streams, you've probably noticed that I say yeet, yote, yunt a lot more than I should. This phrase came from the fact that I used to say yeet a lot, then that evolved into yote, and that followed suit and turned into yunt. So now I immortalize the legacy by saying yeet, yote, yunt whenever I want to let everyone know that I'm feeling good. So consider spreading the good vibes and getting yourself this new shirt. On top of that, if you want to support me and the channel, consider becoming a patron for as little as $1 a month. My name's JR, and I'll see you guys in the next one. However, I do wish there were more consistently difficult missions in Warframe. The fact that a lot of the common stuff is relatively easy means I can do other things I enjoy while playing Warframe, basically going into autopilot on Warframe. No. I ad-libbed that so hard.